All right, so update. The notch failed, and I just had to go ahead and cut everything off. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a break from the 68 Firebird. So I backed into something in the parking lot and I have to pull that dent out. I also have a dent up on the hood from where a tree fell on it. Same tree, created that dent right there. As you can see, I also have a dent in the tailgate from where something slid back and hit the tailgate of the truck. Now, if you're like me, you don't have thousands of dollars to spend on paintless dent repair. So today we're gonna pull those dents out. We're gonna take the bumper off, try and fix everything up to make it look a little bit nicer. Now I'm starting with this dent back here. So we're gonna take this rear cover plate off, and for a 2500 Ram, it is a T27 bit. So I've looked inside and there's a support brace that runs across here. So I won't be able to get a jack or anything like that inside to be able to pop that up. So I got lucky, and where my dent is right next to an access hole. So what I'm going to do is pop the tailgate off, flip it upside down, and push from the backside through this hole to try and pop that dent out. So you can see I've got a pretty noticeable curve right here, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to approach this, but I do have a hammer. Now, there's two theories that I can go with. Is one, pushing this way, but I'm afraid that I'm going to mess up the tail right here. Option number two is to kind of fit this in here and then hammer on the back side of it, hoping that I can knock some of that out. So that looks miles better. There's not a massive dent in it anymore. There's still obviously a dent, but that is pulled out for the most part. So it's really all I care about. Get everything wrapped up and we'll move on to the next dent. But there is a decent dent right here. Now hopefully I'll be able to attach the hot glue peg to here and pull that dent out. All right, that's had a second to set up. All right, so it's many hours later, but you can see that we've been working this dent. And is it perfect? No, but we don't have a massive dent in the roof anymore. And whenever it's sunlight out or this light's not totally pointing at it, it is a lot less noticeable. But you can see here, just trying to pull that dent out is incredibly difficult. It's the next day and we've got a little bit more sunlight out now. So we're gonna be tackling the dent up on the hood, and we're gonna be tackling that rear bumper. So as you can see here, there's obviously that dent right there up by the washer nozzle. So that's gonna be a little bit tough to get to. I tried pulling a little bit out last night and some of it did come out. However, I think the best plan of action is gonna be to open up the hood, and we're gonna take off this liner right here, and we're gonna try and punch it from that way. So that way maybe we can get that dent out a little bit better. All right, so obviously it is a super confined space in there. and that's right where the washer nozzle is. So I'm gonna try and reach my hammer and this tool right here, and we're gonna see if I can knock some of that out on this side. All right, so the hammer didn't work. We're gonna go back to the hot glue gun and see if we can just pull the dents out with the PDR kit. All right, so after a little bit of work, you can see we got a decent amount of the dent out. And yeah, there's some high spots here and there, but realistically, it's not bad for a cheap $20 kit. And it looks a lot better than when the huge dents were in it. Now, it is still noticeable, but a lot better. And now we're gonna move on to the rear bumper. And this is arguably the hardest dent that we're gonna have to pull, not only because it's the largest dent, but because it did push in the bumper just a little bit. As you can see here, we're kind of sitting up against the fender. You can see where it tapped it there. So we gotta bend out the brackets just a little bit. And this is a steel bumper. So the material is a lot harder and the dent is a lot bigger. So we're gonna take the bumper off and we're gonna go at it with a hammer and try and smooth that entire thing out. First thing we got to do is unplug all the sensors. So they have these little red tabs. Slide that back and you press the button and that comes off. Now I installed LEDs, so they have this resistor on here that I had just taped up to keep it out of the way, and then it's got a wire that runs in through here, and that's just a capacitor for the LED. So we'll just take that off. I'll leave this resistor on the ground. Same thing for all the parking sensors. Press the tab, slide it back. And then there's this zip tie up here. You can either cut it or you can pop it out. And you also have to do it for this trailer plug. And then you'll repeat it on the other side. So you get a bolt here, and then you have two that are on the opposite side. I already took off the other two, so when you see these come out, you'll see the tailgate almost kind of drop down. One of the last steps that you're going to do is going to be taking off the license plate. There's two bolts that sit back there that are going to allow you to remove the bumper entirely. These two bolts back here should be a 15 mil. All right, so we have everything just about pulled apart. I got all the nuts and the bolts taken out of here. I got this support bracket, and if you actually take a look here, you see how this is curved. Take a look at the other side. Yes, it's curved, but that 90 right there is what's given us so many issues, and that's why our bumper is set back so far, because that little part right here is supposed to be at a 90. So we'll get this bent back out, and that should solve our fitment issue. And we have to worry about actually taking the dent out. I already took out the parking sensor here, and this bolt actually stripped because you can see it's pretty rusty, so I think it just ate up the square thread in there. So what I'll do is I'm going to cut a little notch sideways here so I can put a flathead on it, and then I should be able to take the nut off all the way. All right, so update. The notch failed, and I just had to go ahead and cut everything off because it was really seized on there. Luckily, I had an extra one laying around. It is not exactly the same, but it does have the square thread on it. It's got the same size nut, so that's going to go right back into place. That was incredibly nerve-wracking, but basically I took a big mallet on the backside and a hammer, and I just kind of smoothed as much as I could out. With how deep that dent was, it was pretty hard to try and get everything smooth just because of the amount of force I had to use. You can see here, this is actually the line that it creased on, and then everything else. I think if I actually sand a lot of this down and then polish it out, it'll actually come back out to a pretty good finish. So what we'll do is we'll get everything kind of installed back together, and then we're gonna throw it back on the truck and see how it looks. So we got the bumper installed again, and this gap stops right at my thumb knuckle. If we come over here, and this also stops at my thumb knuckle. Obviously, it is not perfect. It's got some flaws here and there. Standing from afar, it's hard to really even tell that it happened. I think one day I might even take this dent out just a little bit more. For $20, I bought that PDR kit, and it has been a lifesaver for all the other dents. You can take all this stuff off with regular tools and ratchet wrenches and everything like that, but I had power tools, so it was a little easier. I did get quoted whenever I did this stuff for a PDR shop to fix all these dents, not including the tailgate. And the insurance company actually just told me they were going to buy me a new tailgate, and with labor that was north of $2,000, and just those two spots up on the roof and on the hood, it was going to cost about $1,200 to get fixed. So it looks a little bit better out in the daylight. So for free, I will deal with having a little bit of a dent here and there versus some nasty dents. For the most part, they all pulled out really well. I can definitely do a little bit more work and clean a lot of stuff up, but I think for free, I'm happy with it. The next video that I put out will be right back to the Firebird, and we're doing some interesting stuff. So stay tuned, and I will see you guys next time.
This is a bang music.